I'm speaking to you now from a July heatwave in 2022, and it reminds me of the old Chinese curse when you're supposed to say to someone, may you live in interesting times. But over the last 2+ years, we've lived through unprecedented times, and that's much, much, much worse. And one of my other favourite words that have come out of the last 2.5 years is this one, and I want you to come closer. Just come closer so you can hear what I'm going to say. Exponentially. Exponentially! Exponentially! Here's 20 anthemic pandemic hits to be the soundtrack of your new normal. Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. And who could forget this classic bit of Brit Cough?
Why don't you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours? Did you go to Offspring? Well, of course. And even too, we're changing society, leveling up. But you know, all my friends, it's enough. When can you start? Jobs for the boys, finding jobs for the girls, giving jobs for the boys, the odd jobs for the girls. Always should be only you really love. So it's jobs for the boys, got a job for a girl, nice job for the boys, a shit job for the girls. Should be party donors you really love.
North, west, east and south. This musical droplet spreads from mouth to mouth.
It's the home of Adrian Moore. Stick a crisp in your cake hole. £1 an hour can't be true. All the workers go boo-boo. And convert over, think of Adrian and vinegar. I don't wanna be loved in Leicester. Oh no, Shawadi-wadi. In the car park, found the body. Cheese and pork pies, wait for you. Football, cricket, rugby too. I don't wanna be loved in Leicester.
Loosen your border controls with this emphatic tune.
Pretty better with coppers on the street. Pretty better, they're so scared to meet. Pretty better, you sound so posh that my heart sings. Apart from words that end with ing.
Sickening. Doubting. Challenging.
Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. Get it before there's a second surge. Social media, that seems to be the home of the conspiracy theory. And I know plenty of people online who believe all the conspiracy theories. It's only the ones that don't excessively do recreational drugs that I worry about. And the ones that don't, well, at least their paranoia cost them nothing. My conspiracy theory is based on the big conspiracy theory about 5G, but mine is, it's all a hoax, but perpetrated by BT. Yeah, go with me here. BT have started the 5G hoax to justify people having a landline in their homes. Because let's face it, having a landline is probably one of the most irrelevant things to have in this day and age. It's almost as stupid as spending 50 quid on phone cards. The problem is, I've got a landline. And the only calls I get are basically from cold calling commercial people that are trying to get money out of me, or pension-aged family members who are calling up to tell me about sickness or death of other pension-age family members. So when that phone rings, the landline, and I pick it up and it's my mum, I have a sense of relief and frustration. I mean, on one side of it, brilliant, she's alive. On the other side of it, I know she's going to ask me, have I been involved in an industrial accident over the last 2 years? And I know she's working on commission, but she's not going to get a sale out of me.
Welcome to your CPC test, Mr. Johnson. Have you done the test before?
Well, with the last test I took, I got a very positive result.
And can I ask, why do you want to have a heavy goods vehicle licence?
I love buses. My main hobby is making model buses in between having extramarital affairs.
Okay.
And I've always thought I looked like Jack from On the Buses.
Uncanny.
I've had buses named after me. If I had £1 for every time I'd been on the bus, I'd have £350 million.
You really do love buses, don't you?
Apart from the bendy ones, obviously.
So I want you to leave the depot and turn left.
I'd rather turn right. Or middle of the road. That's popular, isn't it?
Let's get a move on, Mr. Johnson. Now I want you to do a right turn.
Okay, U-turn it is then.
So how do you think that went?
Too early to say.
No.
Okay, I could see that perhaps there were things that we could have done differently. Have I passed the test?
No. Joggers. 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 Joggers are everywhere. They're on pavements and in parks, breathing heavily, running towards you. Now, I'm a bit more careful and I'm a bit more shy. And so I decided if I was going to take a run, I would rather do it in the evening when there's less people about. So that's what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And last Thursday, I was pounding the streets and I was able to see at first hand the wonderful, wonderful thing when people go out of their windows and start clapping and banging pans for the NHS. And it was wonderful. It was inspiring, especially because I saw that and it made me feel like I was leading the London Marathon, up until a point that someone shouted out from a window, "Hey, look, that's Mo Farah's dad." And I think that's unfair. I've actually quite a good reputation as a runner. It was only last year that I completed the London Marathon. It did take me 14 days, and they weren't consecutive days. Only 7 of them were this millennium. But, you know, as Pierre de Coubertin, head of the Olympic movement, as he said, it's not the taking part, it's collecting the sponsorship money that counts. Will you? Yes, you will. QAnon for Kids, Conspiracy for Children. Helping to bring up your child the alt-right way. Hello, Tommy.
Hello.
Hello, Mary.
Hi, Mr. Q.
Let's start with maths, shall we? What's 2 plus 4, Tommy?
It's 6.
Are you sure?
Yes.
No! It's the devil's number! The favourite of Satan's new world order! Loved by the Illuminati, which must be resisted! Resist! Do your own research!
Oh, look. A family. Do you know who the adults are, Mary?
Mummy and Daddy, Mr. Q.
Do you love Mummy and Daddy, Mary?
Yes.
No! Your mummy and daddy are part of the woke metropolitan elite! They don't even love you! They don't even love our country! They're the enemy of the people! Hate mummy and daddy! Do your own research!
Hey, Mickey. Are you playing safely?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't run around with a pair of scissors in your hands?
No.
Why not? Don't listen to the mainstream media. They want to take away your freedoms and your liberty. They'll have you wearing a mask and taking vaccines next. And don't just listen to me. Listen to this nutter and do your own research.
And the government has now announced its post-lockdown advice for people visiting the seaside. And you keep thinking about how can I do my little bit, and so I just had the idea. I just said to my girlfriend, you should really donate your nurse's uniform to the NHS, and she just said, it's not PPE, it's PVC. Here's to the person who writes the poems you hear on those TV ads you see year after year, for banks or shit food or stuff for the house, in working class accents, normally scouse, with perfect families that don't seem too real, and an annoying ukulele to give a community feel. So here's to the old, the young, the thin and the fat, and that arsehole who writes poems that makes you bite crap. On my infrequent trips out, I did see something that made me stop and take stock. It was this. Who knew that you could get COVID-19 hanging baskets? In one way, it's weird, but in another way, it could be just another example of this. But it did make me think about the coronavirus and the shape of it. We've been looking at lots of different representations of the COVID-19 virus ever since it was first filmed in a microscope up there, but the rest of them are just our versions of what it will look like. And there's a lot of different versions. So I thought what I might do is give you a personal top 10. Coming in last, it's simple, it's low resolution, it's the virus if it was a rich biscuit. Cheesy. Number 9, sex toy. Pour homme pour la femme. Number 8, piles. Number 7, the virus at its most child-friendly. It's all Play-Doh-y and plasticine. Stick 2 friendly eyes on it, you've got the new star of Nick Park's new movie. Number 6, the virus if you were on drugs. And when I say drugs, I mean tested vaccine. Number 5, the virus as a Hawaiian shirt worn by a 50-something man on a hot summer date with a double divorcee that he met on Plenty of Fish. Number 4, looks so good I could almost eat it. Cheesy. Number 3, classy and glassy. The sort of virus you could take home to meet your parents, but we don't recommend it. Number 2, look at them suckers. If you cough this up, it will stick to the wall. Number 1, the virus that your mum knitted and gave to you for Christmas, and then you washed it on too high a setting, and it went out of shape, and then you donated it to the local charity shop. Before I did stand-up, I used to be an exam invigilator, and it's a lovely word, isn't it? I enjoyed being the invigilator. Sounds like the world's worst superhero. What's your secret power? I can keep teenagers quiet for hours. And during the exams, we weren't supposed to help the students, but during one exam, kid puts his hand up and he points at this word in the paper. He looks up at me, says, "I don't understand it, sir." And I looked at the word, and the word was contraception. And there's moments in life when it's worth breaking the rules. This kid was 15, 16. He needed this information. So I gave him a clue and I said, it's something that if your parents had it, you wouldn't have been born. Do you understand what I mean? And he looks up at me and he goes, "Yeah, I do, sir. Decent smartphone."
Good afternoon. This is Boris here.
I'm desperate, Boris. Only you can fuck me.
Oh my god. Who was that on the phone?
It's not what you think. It's the economy.
People have asked me, do you miss hecklers? No. because they're not funny, they're not helping, and they're easy to take down.
That's a joke.
Shut up! Sorry, I must have left the window open. I've replaced hecklers in my life now with conspiracy supporters on social media, but it's tough arguing with them. Tough. I always end up asking the question, who are they? And when they give me the answer, it's always everything and anything. So I decided to go on to Google and find out, who are they? And it turns out it's the most popular question on the internet. But who are they? I went onto one site and it gave me the usual answers. It was politicians, it was the army, the military, the civil service, local government, national government, your neighbour, foreigners. It was certain racial groups, the media, everything and anything. And then at the end of this list, it had one final definition of they. They are people who ask you, who are they? Because they're the sort of people that make you question your conspiracy and might make you think you're just paranoid. So it turns out the answer to the question, who are they? It's me. And it's also you. It's anyone who makes a conspiracy theorist question his conspiracy theory. You really can't beat that argument, can you? Shopping. Pre-lockdown, it was mental. Just people in the supermarket stripping the shelves bare. It was like a mix of Black Friday and the riots. Then during the lockdown, queuing. Massive queues. It was like waiting to sign on. And then when you got in there, because you've been locked down for so long, you're in there for 20 minutes before you even realise that you've got no belt on and your flies are wide open. And in the supermarket, every aisle is potential danger. People blocking your way, you're turning backwards, people waiting, hanging around. And it felt like this. And now I shop late at night, early in the morning, little convenience stores that are open 24 hours across London. So my bread is now Czechoslovakian, my butter is Polish, and all my meats are from an inner city farm in Hackney. Here's a list of my top 10 famous or infamous coronavirus scientists and experts. Number 10, Judy Mikovits, discredited virologist and the subject of the conspiracy video Plandemic. Not a convincing scientist in the slightest, apart from the fact that she's got the same hair as Dr. Emmett L. Brown in Back to the Future and Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein. Number 9, Professor Neil Ferguson. He had to resign from the government advisory group SAGE after admitting meeting his lover during lockdown. As excuses go, saying you were horny is so much more believable than saying you had to go out to test your eyesight. Number 8, Dr. Jenny Harries, UK Deputy Medical Officer. In March, she advised new couples to test the strength of their relationships by moving in together during lockdown. If only Neil Ferguson had listened to that. Number 7, Professor Jonathan Van Tam, England's Deputy Medical Officer. I love this guy, mainly because he looks like a cross between Penfold from Danger Mouse and Bunsen Honeydew from The Muppets. Number 6, Baroness Dido Harding, chair of the government's Track and Trace, whose app is still not fully functioning. Not really an expert. She was head of Carphone Warehouse, which we all know hasn't sold car phones for decades and isn't in a warehouse. But as an ex-jockey, she did persuade the government to delay full lockdown for a week so the Cheltenham Festival could take place. So she's not all talk. Number 5, Ruth May, England's chief nurse. She said that she was dropped from the government briefings for refusing to defend Dominic Cummings' excuses for breaking lockdown rules. The government say that this isn't true, a denial that stinks so much that she shouldn't have just worn her scrubs to briefings but full PPE. Number 4, Dr. Catherine Calderwood. She quit as Scotland's chief medical officer after making several unscheduled trips to a second home during lockdown. which is shocking, as now she's the most famous owner of a second home in Scotland, apart from Rod Stewart and the Queen. Number 3. Professor Chris Whitty, England's chief medical officer, the monotone voice of caution cutting against the optimistic tone of government ministers.
I expect there to be significant amount of coronavirus circulating.
Like Marvin, the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Number 2. Sir Patrick Vallance, the government's chief scientific officer, who said on March 19th that the UK needed to get COVID-19 herd immunity, which makes him the Dr. Evil of this list. He reckoned that 40 million people needed to be infected for herd immunity to be reached. At the time of this recording, only 300,000 people have been infected. So, in an average UK herd of cows, that's less than 1/10 of a hoof. And number 1, Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the US Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since 1984, and has fought against HIV/AIDS, Ebola, and other diseases that I can't and won't pronounce. He spent 50 years in public health and now is the target of loads and loads of conspiracy theories, to the point that he needs a security detail to protect him from the very citizens he's trying to protect. But he's the world's most famous pandemic scientist. He's like Elvis, and our UK scientists are like Cliff Richard and the Shadows.
Will you? Yes, you will.
Boris tells the English nation to walk back to work. There are certain things that you yearn for during a pandemic. I miss making up excuses so I don't have to go out. Sorry, I'm going to have to deal with this person. Oi! You! Yeah, that's better. Hello, Binky. How's the morale of the men?
It's not good, sir. Battle fatigue. We've lost so many good chaps. Smudger, Bertie, and the Beaumont brothers. Big Alf and Little Dicky, all cashed in their chips.
Not Little Dicky gone.
Yes, sir. He bought it, sir.
Little Dickie's bit the dust, sir. Like so many over the last 5 years. Such a waste. Things are gonna change when we get back to Blighty.
Now listen, men. Good God, we've all seen our fair share of death. And when things are bleak, that's when I think of Blighty. I remember why we're fighting over here, boys. That's our advantage over the enemy. We're not fighting for some despicable ideology. So remember, we're fighting for the economy. We've been told that taking on the virus is like a war against an invisible enemy. And at the start, we were told to make sacrifices to save the NHS. And now we seem to have saved the NHS. Other people are telling us to make sacrifices to save the economy. And as someone who's in one of the most susceptible groups, why should I make the ultimate sacrifice for the economy? I've got to be honest, there's been many times when the economy was doing very well and it completely ignored me. I don't know if I want to give my life for the economy. For one thing, it's never sent me a birthday card. It's never done the washing up. It's never even liked one of my posts on social media. UK's major supermarkets ask shoppers to wear full PPE. Swab nurse.
Yes, Doctor.
Thank you. A bottle of Lambrini and a packet of B&H, please, nurse.
Yes, Doctor.
Cardiac arrest. Stand clear for CPR.
I think it's the girl on the till scanning your purchases, Doctor.
That'd be £10.68, please.
So during the pandemic, all pubs have been closed and it's a disaster for me professionally and personally. I think all of us have suffered not being able to go to our designated place where we can get pissed. And location with drinking in this country is important. So if you were to come around to my place and find I had a drinks cabinet full of whiskies, you'd go, wonderful, what a fantastic and generous person. If you were to find out I had a wine cellar, you'd go, well, what a connoisseur of the vintner's art. But if you were to find just half a bottle of whiskey underneath my driver's seat, you'd be going crazy. Paul, you've got a problem. Paul, you need to get help. Paul, I'm getting off this bus.
Music is contagious, so here's 20 classic tracks that will stoke up the fever. Now that's what I call music, COVID-19, with infectious tracks from the 60s.
I thought lockdown rules were just a fairy tale, followed by someone else, but not by me. The virus out to get me, that's the way it seems. Disappointment till there's a vaccine. Now it's test and trace, and I'm a believer. You coughed in my face, spat into my mind. I'm exposed, I'm a believer. I can leave here in 2 weeks' time.
The 1970s.
Vaccine. Human trials, just put on your green light. Just take Bill Gates' money. You don't have to test bleach in the sunlight. Vaccine. You don't have to ask me twice. If it costs no money, I don't care if it's wrong or if it's right.
And those naughty, naughty, naughties.
Oh, never did no harm, never did no harm. Going to the rhyme. It's coming up, 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 it's coming up. It's there.
Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. Get it before it goes viral.
So, with the death of George Floyd in America, I suppose it's a good time for me to tell you about some of my interactions with the police. Story number one was when I was at university. In the first week, I got a letter from the principal asking me to come in for a meeting, and I turned up. He was there, obviously, but sat next to him was the deputy head of the county police force. And I sat down and I said, well, how can I help you, gentlemen? And the deputy head said, well, welcome to the Northwest. I'm here because I want you to help me with a problem. We don't have many black people living in the county, and I just wondered, would you make yourself available for identity parades? Really? Yes, it would be doing us a huge favour, so I've asked the principal if we can have your address so we know where you live at all times. So I said yes. I left the meeting and thought no more about it until I moved off campus. Then the police, knowing where I lived, became a bit of a problem because they were at the end of my road every day of the week, and they arrested every one of us that lived in the house for traffic offences of one kind or another. So I got arrested in a car. I got arrested on the back of a motorbike. And most stupidly of all, I got arrested on the front of a tandem. It was late at night. We were both a little bit drunk and riding back from the campus to home when we saw a police car flash its lights. We decided to duck down an alleyway towards the River Mersey, but when we got to the end of the alleyway, there were 4 police cars waiting for us. Of course they were waiting for us because they knew where I lived. Second story was a May Day protest where kettling was first invented, and we were trapped there for several hours. So I turned to a police constable and I said, "Oi, copper, can you do me for what I'm thinking?" And he said, "No, sir, this is a free country. You can think what you want." And I said, "OK, I think you're a complete twat." To be honest, I might not have used those exact words. Sorry, phone, left my phone on. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, I'm filming at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry. I'll probably edit this bit out.
Secretary of State for the Home Department, Priti Patel. And Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Matt Hancock. In the top 10 catchphrases in the government's daily coronavirus updates, and what they really mean. Number 10.
Ramping up. We're rolling that out right now.
Ramped up, rolled out. A definition is similar to the Spanish word mañana, meaning that action will happen at some point during this millennium if we're lucky. Summed up by the fact that when something is ramped up, it seldom can be rolled out. Number 9.
Key workers.
Key workers.
Key workers.
Key worker. A worker that the government didn't care about before the pandemic. Or somebody who works at Timpson's. Number 8.
Unprecedented time.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times.
Unprecedented times. Which means the government wasn't ready for this. Even though they should have been. Number 7.
Our NHS.
Our NHS.
Our NHS.
Our NHS. Which means it's our NHS until we sell it off to American companies in 2 years' time. Number 6.
PPE.
PPE. Which means reusable workwear or bin bags. Number 5.
Patrick, do you want to?
And on the second part of the question,
whether that has.
Referring the question to the expert, which means I've blagged this answer. Please save my arse. Number 4.
Difficult time. Difficult times. Difficult time.
Difficult time. Which means shit time for the government, shit time for you. Number 3.
Lockdown.
Lockdown.
Lockdown. Rules that apply only to you and not Dominic Cummings. Number 2.
Challenging time. Challenging time. An immensely challenging time.
Challenging time, which means the same as difficult times. And number 1.
Taking the right steps at the right time.
Taking these measures at the right time.
We took the right measures at the right time.
Taking the right measures or steps at the right time, which means a Marxist brother's approach to the facts. You've seen the figures, so who are you going to believe? The government or your own lying eyes?
Who knew that protesting would make a comeback during a pandemic? First, we had the protests by the alt-right and assorted loonies about the lockdown measures. In America, they even brought their guns with them just to make certain they were peaceful. And President Trump supported them. Then after the death of George Floyd, we had the Black Lives Matter protests, which President Trump didn't support. It all depends who's doing the protesting. And just so you know, I support the Black Lives Matter protests. On the negative side, there's been some violence, but on the positive side, all my old material about the 2011 riots in the UK is now topical again. Racism, like leather jackets and DM boots, never quite goes out of fashion. And I abhor violence. It's the only thing I do abhor. Everything else I might not like or just don't fancy it. But violence, abhor. And the thing about protesting is that you never know if it's two arsehole mates rioting and looting might turn up along with it, like two uninvited guests at a house party. And the problem with rioting and looting is they always go together. They're inseparable. They're like the ant and deck of civil disorder.
So, the next that's from London, innit? Eh? Hi, and who we got here? Thank you, Simon, for your question. And I'll assure you, it's a question that we really think is important to address. So I refer you to our scientist here, who will give you more detail.
Good afternoon. His name is Matt Hancock, and he's from London.
So, what is it you do, Matt?
He's a comedian.
Okay, good luck. Good afternoon. Nicole, knock knock.
Yeah, who's there?
I think it's an important question. So I'll refer you to our scientist for a more detailed answer.
His name is Matt Hancock, and he's from London.
Now, an important question is, how many Conservative ministers does it take to change a light bulb? Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your question about light bulbs. We are entirely pro-light bulb, and our party has always been pro-light bulb, and we understand your concerns about light bulbs.
Yeah.
We've reached our light bulb changing target, although in most cases we've just posted the light bulbs to the fittings for later changing. But for more detail, I'll refer you to our scientist.
The answer is however many Dominic Cummings tells Boris Johnson.
One of the intriguing things about this pandemic is the use of the word numbers. To begin with, it was a euphemism for infections and deaths. Those were the numbers we were looking at. And now it's about the infection rate, otherwise known as the R number. We're looking specifically at the R number all the time, and it's a bit of a binary choice. From 0 to 1 is good. From 1 and above, we're fucked. And the thing about the R number is we realised it's going to be different in different parts of the country. So in Liverpool, it could be the RA number. In Manchester, it could be the Arcade number. And in the West Country, it could be the R number. I thank ye.
Keep your temperature rising with 20 top-tested tunes to loosen your lockdown. Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. With tracks so totally catchy, they'll put the funk in your antibodies.
And there was that old Harden admitting it's not working. And just then it hit me. Somebody turned around and shouted, "Since that tracing that by the white boy, since that tracing that alright, since that tracing that by the white boy, Apple and Google, since that tracing that until you die, until you die, yeah, till you die."
Get out of self-isolation and invite your chosen one to join you in your love bubble with tracks that put the intimacy into social distancing.
Do I wear this mask forever? Have a drink or meal together? I don't believe it. Take it or leave it. Travel ban because of danger. Average now, don't be a stranger. Can we achieve it? Lockdown make easy. Come a little bit closer, baby. And a mask, let's get it on. 'Cause tonight is the night. 2 meters now one.
And who can forget this great steaming hit?
I am the Prime Minister, baby. And you, they tell me that you're a footballer, maybe. I got more kids than you, but I look after number one. They tell me that you're popular, so watch out, tell your mom. You spin me right round, baby, right round. If you like it, you turn right round. I'll spend my policies, baby, right round. Check my record, 'cause I turn right round.
Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. Get it before it's put in quarantine.
Last year, I was paid to provide music for a Brexit video. I'm not a Brexiteer. I'm a Remainer, but I took the money and I did the music. And then my music wasn't even chosen for the final video. So I took the final video and put my music on it. And I posted that on YouTube. And so far, that has got over 10,000 hits. 10,000 views. That's 10 times the amount that I've received for any of these episodes. So I have to ask myself the question, why the fuck am I doing this? Look, I'm... Welcome to highlights of the UK government's Corona update with added crowd noise. I'm Alan Stewart, and beside me, sat over 1 metre away, is political scientist and Anfield legend Dick Sibley. Alright, let's have a look at the teams. Representing the UK government, up front, it's BJ Boris Johnson. He's done well to come back from injury. On the right flank, it's Sir Paddy Vallance. And a big surprise, replacing the dropped Professor Chris Whitty is Professor Peter Horby. Good solid replacement. Representing the UK media, up front, it's the blonde bombshell, Laura Kunsberg. She could play for either side. Flanked by the dazzler himself, Bobby Peston. Watch out. And on the other side, a regional journalist who's just happy to be representing the country. Hope he's not out of his depth there, Alan. So what do you reckon then, Dick? Well, it's a strong team for the UK government. They bringing out all the big guns, BJ's up front. With the UK media, not really got any cutting edge. But with government's ability to score an own goal, you never really know what's going to happen here. And the government team is now coming out. Let battle commence.
Good evening. I'm delighted to be joined today by the Chief Scientific Advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, and by Professor Peter Horby from the University of Oxford's Centre for Tropical Medicine and Global Health. Today, I'm actually going to let them do most of the talking as they have some news to share on a new treatment for coronavirus. But I will start by updating you briefly on the latest data. First slide, please.
We rejoin the action, the score is still 0-0, and Sam Bigglestaff from the Littlehampton Bugle is confronting Boris Johnson. Good afternoon, my question is to the Prime Minister. You've been married 3 times, so you've changed your mind about 2 of those wives. You were a Eurosceptic in the 90s, and then you changed your mind as you were working under David Cameron, and then you changed your mind again. In 1999, you told your boss you wouldn't become an MP, but you changed your mind. In 2004, you published an editorial blaming Liverpool fans for the Hillsborough disaster, and later that year, you were told to change your mind. In 2008, as London Mayor, you promised to give 1/5 of your journalism fees to charity, and you changed your mind. You promised not to close London Underground station offices, but you changed your mind. And during this pandemic, your government has changed its mind on NHS contact tracing app, free school meal vouchers, NHS surcharge fees to non-EU health workers, applying the NHS bereavement scheme to low-paid staff, MPs remote voting in Parliament. So, Prime Minister, my question is this. People don't know what you stand for. So what I want to know is, who do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Well, first of all, I'm not aware of that. Patrick, are you aware of any? I'll have to come back to you on that. It sounds peculiar to me, but we'll certainly look into it.
Oh yeah, that's classic Boris, that. And for those of you who've not had a COVID-19 test, here's a little rundown. It's not a nice experience. Firstly, I turned up at Charlton Athletic Football Ground. It was full of the army. It was like a scene out of Black Mirror. And secondly, the test itself is unpleasant, especially the bit where you have to put the swab into your mouth and touch your tonsils for 10 seconds without touching your tongue or teeth. It's as hard to say as it is to do. I was constantly retching and gagging. Whereas my partner, she found it a piece of cake. As she said to me, it didn't even touch the sides. And she's talking about the swab here. Anyway, it turns out that I'm negative, and the next day my doctor said it was probably due to me having an allergic reaction to the high pollen count. So it turns out the only fever that shouldn't lead to a test is hay fever. And I still suffer from hay fever. But I've come up with a Trumpian cure. What I do now is I sniff Pledge house polish sprayed into a duster. And it takes years off me every time I do it. It's wonderful. But I don't recommend this to anyone to do at home. I do recommend that you do it in the garden or any outdoor area.
Welcome back to Love Island, and Ched and Jess are having that awkward talk about racism.
So like my forefathers were like taken from Africa in ships.
Naked babes.
Now they were like in cloths or something.
Ah, bless.
And like they were enslaved for 400 years, yeah?
OMG, Chad, like that was so intense. It's like totally awesome that you can tell me things like that. Cause if we go exclusive, you need to know. I'll be the one wearing the handcuffs.
That's like sick. Totally sick.
And so we've reached the end of this episode, and wait a minute. Sorry, it's the hay fever. Yeah, that's better. So you've probably realised that I've spent the last 2.25 years making these videos, helping me to get through the pandemic, and I hope that you've enjoyed them. And if you have, please consider making a contribution which is traditional in the PBH Free Fringe. You can do this via my Joke Pit account, and I'll put the details in the description. And obviously that's where my jokes live. Not in a library of culture, but in a pit.